I'm going to give you a wildly unpopular opinion. Buyer's agents need to just go away. There's not a need for
That is an
brokerage
unpopular opinion. Yes. Welcome to episode 3 of Brooks on the Money. This week I've got JP Piccinini from Vesuvius Holdings. JP and I have known each other for a long time through the mortgage and real estate business. And we're just here to talk about real estate and mortgage and all things in life. So welcome, JP. Thanks for coming.
Thanks, Brooks. Thanks for having me. It's an honor. It's a pleasure to be here. I consider you a longtime friend and business partner at one point in time. So
yeah,
it's always good to catch up. And thanks for having me.
Absolutely, yeah. It's been too long for sure, but you exited the country.
Yeah,
and
I've been AWOL for a little while.
You've been on the beach for the last few years, and
it's been actually a lot of people still think I live in St. John, but I've been back for a good year now. So back in DFW.
Back full time now.
Back full time, yeah. Married, have a little girl, and we share custody of Juliet, and then we have full custody of her son. So it's a big blended family. We have little kids; they're all in school now, and so. A moment of silence for my life in St. John for a couple of years. It's really missed.
You still have the house down there, though? You get to go down there?
I sold the house.
Oh, you sold it?
We did buy. I still have the boat down there.
Okay.
Virgin Islands, but you guys know St. John, what I mean by that. Still have the boat down there with a good friend of mine, Gabe Abshire, with Move Concierge now.
Okay.
Previously, Utility Concierge. And I bought a lot, and we are building on the island. But that's like a treacherously long process.
I can't imagine trying to build a home on a
insane.
Caribbean island.
Yeah,
how long
it's a
that'll
rock.
take?
It's literally a rock. It's like furniture has to come in, has to be flown to Puerto Rico, put on a barge, taken to the island of St. Thomas, offloaded to the port of St. Thomas, and then put on private barge to St. John, and then in pickup trucks or some kind of trucks, and got to.
So every 2x4 and every
it's
fixture
insane. I don't
and
know.
everything has to do the same
everything.
thing.
Yeah, there's nothing on this island. Lumber. There's construction equipment because people build homes, and there's a big building boom there. But
yeah,
you do mortgages in the Virgin Islands?
Maybe. I don't know. I never tried. I mean, it's in the United States, so it's possible.
It is. I'm going to be in the. I'm going to get you a quote. I'm going to be in the CP loan for that one very, very soon.
All right. Sounds good. Well, so yeah, tell us a little bit about what you've been doing those last few years. So, for context, everyone, I met JP back when he owned JP and Associates Realtors, now JPAR, and that was 10 years ago, probably 2013, 2014.
Yeah, you and I have been doing this for 20 plus years now. Seems like.
Yeah.
I mean, I started. Some of you guys don't know, might know who I am. I was a realtor, got into real estate, left my engineering world at 28 years old, and ventured into real estate as a realtor, and did really well in South Carolina, where I started my real estate career as a realtor. And then I became a team leader, and then I became a broker, and then I bought into a franchise, and then decided to move back to DFW in 2010. And in 2011, I started this company called JP Associates Realtors, which the concept of that was a full transaction-based brokerage.
Yeah.
Gave the agents everything they wanted in a brokerage, but only charge them a management transaction fee. Yeah. So they get to keep all the commission. And it was wildly successful, right? I mean, it
was one of the first ones, if not the first one like that.
Or
right?
one that's done it really well, I guess. Full service. A lot of these transaction brokerage had a reputation of not being full service, and we were. We had full service and more. Ended up being super successful. Attracted, from 2 agents. We at the peak when I sold in 2021 to the private equity in New York. We had 3,500 agents in 23 states. So I had franchised and everything else. Yeah, $5 billion in sales a year. One of the top 20 largest brokerages in the United States. So wanted to get out. I got out, I think, at the right time. Everybody's telling me that I got out at the right time in April 2021 before things started really going south. And I already had started what's called Vesuvius Holdings, which is our private equity family office that holds a bunch of different companies, while I was still running JPAR and JPAR franchising. And obviously the exit allowed me to focus on me personally. I was going through divorce with my ex-wife, and never really had any downtime because I was worked. I got married really young, had kids really, really young.
Yeah.
So it was a wonderful time to find myself and do the things that I wanted to do. I didn't work. I was retired, fully retired for a good, maybe a year, something like that. It's about as long as I could take it before I got bored.
Yeah.
And I was living in the Virgin Islands, yeah, mostly. And I was only coming back to pick up my daughter and see my daughter. And my older ones had grown and off to college. So
Yeah.
that lasted a good year. And then, yes, entrepreneurial spirit came back and said, what are you doing? Too young to retire. And I probably did a little too much, a little too fast.
Yeah. So you
Found
decided to
myself
open a
really busy.
restaurant, huh? Is that
Among other things, yes. That's what a lot of people do.
You
And
decided to get in the restaurant business.
Yeah.
How's that going for you?
I don't recommend it for anybody.
Yeah.
It's stick to real estate if you're in real estate for sure.
Yeah.
The profits are way better and way higher and easier to achieve than the hospitality business.
For sure.
It's a passion. It's a hobby. It is now profitable. So amazing to that.
That's good.
It's been 2 years to try to get to that point.
Yeah.
It's a lot of work. I mean, but it's fun if you love people, and I do, which is one of the reasons why I got into real estate to begin with. And obviously, I'm Italian, and I love Italian food. And being able to serve authentic Italian food,
Yeah.
it's like I have 100 people in my house every single night.
That's awesome.
So yeah, they love it. People are happy. Great reviews. It is the highest. Shameless plug. It's the highest rated Italian restaurant in Dallas. One of the highest rated restaurants in Dallas. Period.
Yeah.
And
La Stella. That's the
La
name?
Stella Cucina Verace. Yeah, it's down in Dallas in the Arts District, across from the AT&T Performance Arts Center.
I'm not going to try to say that.
The Symphony.
that,
Yes,
yeah.
I thought we were
I'll
friends,
butcher
but I
that.
just realized you never have not come in to eat at my restaurant for the
No,
last 2 years,
no.
so we're not friends
I
anymore.
was waiting for the VIP invite and table, so.
Let me know when it is. And, I might
think
even
I
come
just
down.
got that. I just shamelessly
Come on
asked for
in.
that.
Bring your
Yeah.
team. I think you need to do some celebrations down there.
I do, for sure.
But yeah, it's fun. I was there last night. Tom Ferry has some kind of conference in Dallas, Success Summit or something like that, I think. And so it was really great. All these real estate people were coming in. It was fun being around them again. And
Yeah, a bunch of the old crowd, a bunch of your old agents.
it wasn't anybody from Dallas actually. It was a lot of people from out of state came in, and they didn't even know that I was there. They just looked up restaurants, and of course Cyrus comes up and. They were there, and I was texting Tom. So I'm still plugged into the real estate world quite a bit.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. Yeah.
So the restaurant's great, and it's profitable. It takes a lot of my time because it's just a passion. It's like a hobby that you love. You're obviously, whether it's trying a new dish or fixing something online or doing something to really push the envelope more and more and more, which is what I did with JPAR, right? Always try to find what I called a continuous improvement. So
Yeah, I always envied your ability to just see something and go, like you didn't think about it too much. You saw an idea and you just went for it. And
yeah, that's probably great advice to give anybody. Branson always said, screw it, just do it. And I always told the agents, just do it. You're not doing heart surgery. Fails, you lost some money, you can make it back, try, venture it. But, chances are if you really commit to something, it may just work out for you and disrupt the market and
for sure.
And have a lot of fun, which is really kind of the story of JPAR, right? We disrupted the market with
big time.
These
big time.
No commission.
That's
100%.
what everything is now, it seems like. I mean, there's still the traditional brokerages, but few and far between compared to the fee offices.
Yeah, I mean, the traditional brokerages are still very much have the majority of the market share when you think about it. The EXPs, the Keller Williams, the Ebby Holiday here in DFW, they wild majority. But JPAR gave them a good run for their money. I mean, we were number 2 or 3 in DFW before I made the exit. We were gunning for number 1.
Yeah.
And we would have gotten there if I didn't choose to retire, but it was good.
Yeah.
Maybe one day I'll come back.
Yeah.
Maybe one day I'll come back.
Sounds like there's something going on.
Maybe, yeah. Still have a non-compete, so.
Right on. And so what else are you up to? You just
the restaurant, of course, we started a construction company, a residential construction company called Grande Vida Homes.
All right.
I'd love to chat with you a little bit about that and how we can get some mortgage partnerships going on with that.
Sure. Yeah.
We have sold 2 homes. We have 4 underground. Things are a little slow. The 4 homes are about finished. They're being marketed soon. They're a beautiful home, mid-century modern. So I've got a partner there named Barrett Blakely. Which was a JPAR agent that was a GC for D.R. Horton and some other homes.
Okay.
But we've elevated the concept and did mid-century modern. They're about $1.5 million and up. We sold the first 2. We're in East Dallas, all in East Dallas.
Like White Rock Lake area?
Yeah, White Rock Lake, yeah. Lakewood, White Rock, Lake Highlands, Little Forest Hills. Those are the primary
in my hood,
areas.
so
yeah.
I know that spot. Good.
Beautiful. Yeah, beautiful homes. We gave, having been run by realtors, we felt like we gave buyers an amazing floor plan and incredible looking home. Dallas is missing a lot of the modern homes.
For sure.
Modern look.
Absolutely.
So we went with a modern look courtyard home. Uh, Big rooms, big square footage, probably a little too big. Some of the homes are 6 bedrooms, 6.5 baths, so pretty
Wow.
large, but a
Yeah,
lot for
for
the
a
square.
mid-century, that's
Yeah,
a lot of
yeah,
bedrooms and bathrooms
yeah.
for
They're all
sure.
courtyard homes.
Usually you see them with 2 or 3, these
Yeah,
huge houses, and they have like 2 bedrooms in
yeah.
them.
No, no, no. Big closets. That's the name Grande Vida. We want to really go grande
Yeah.
on these homes. So they're on the market. Great price value for what you get. Custom homes, of course. So we did that. We are doing that. We want to expand on that particular company. We're very bullish about real estate in Dallas, and we know it really well.
It's an incredible place to sell real estate for
Yeah.
sure. You did mention though in there that things are a little slow. Is that from the construction side or the sales side, or
The sell side, yeah, we're
Okay.
seeing. I think a lot of people, and tell me if I'm wrong, but a lot of people on the fence here are not necessarily waiting whether they should buy or not. They're waiting to figure out if the rates are going to drop or not
Yeah.
before they go and lock in and get into a mortgage. And then you have the election year. Then you just have your typical seasonality of September, August, September, just being
for sure? Yeah.
It's interesting, right? During COVID, we didn't have a seasonality. During COVID, every month was just an insane, better than the previous month, and
Yeah,
it was
for sure.
there was no slow months, right? I mean,
Yeah.
I drove the company through COVID, and I exited right at the end of COVID, and we didn't have the Septembers or the Februarys where there was just slow. It was,
Yeah.
and now it's kind of interesting to see people how they're a lot of realtors, a lot of real estate professionals forgot the cyclical aspect of our business, right?
For sure. Yeah.
So we're seeing a cyclical come back to where it was before, and so yeah, real estate is a little slow right now.
Yeah, we actually, we have a manager's call or owner's call for our company on Wednesday, just right before this, and we actually talked about that seasonality and that it's actually kind of nice that it's back a little bit. I mean, obviously, we'd love to sell as many
Sure.
homes as possible every single month, but the seasonality part of it is you can kind of predict your business based on it. And when we forecast and project numbers, we always say that August is going to be down 10%, and August was down about 10%.
Yeah.
Like we had a great June, July, and that's from all the people in the spring that are
Yep.
getting ready to buy a home. And then you get to that point in the
Mhm.
summer doldrums and everybody's on vacation
Yep.
and it's just out of their mind. But looking at September and October going forward, the numbers are higher and they're back. And so it's like this actual back to a seasonality again. So I don't think it's there for long. I do think that what I've seen is the luxury buyers, at least for us, I haven't done many jumbo loans in the last year plus, because most of those buyers were paying cash and it was still a very strong market. The ones financing it weren't really financing it at 7% rates,
Sure.
but we actually have 3 or 4 closings in the next couple of weeks of people buying $1.5 million, $2 million homes. And for Dallas, that's a big number typically, unless you're in like
It
the
used to be
Preston
a big
Hollow.
number,
Yeah.
not so much anymore, right?
It's a bigger number. Yeah, it's a bigger number than the average, home. But for I'm talking other cities and
Yeah.
states,
Oh, yeah.
like for California, a $2 million home gets you like
Sure. Yeah.
800
Value
square
wise,
feet, like,
value wise for $1.5 million in Dallas get you a lot.
for sure. Yeah,
Yeah.
6 bedrooms and 6
Yeah.
baths, right?
Mhm.
So,
Brand new home.
right. So, we've talked a lot about the NAR settlement, both in our office, and our first podcast was mostly about that as well. I know you stay in the know and things
Yeah.
like that. What do you think with your experience? What do you think that's going to do to the market?
I've been a realtor, and I want to be cautious as my comments to make it sound like I'm not anti-realtor by any means whatsoever. I do believe in the need to have a real estate professional represent a buyer and a seller in a transaction, without a doubt. But because I believe so strongly in that particular position, also very protective. So even with JPAR, we had standards before you could join the company, right? Otherwise, you'd be out. I like the settlement because I'm hopeful that it makes the market harder to stay in and get in for a part-time or struggling realtor that's not really all there.
Yeah.
No news flash there. There is over 1 million realtors, maybe a little less now, and probably
I think it peaked at 2 million.
2 million.
I think it was the peak, but yeah, I think we're down to 1 million or so
1 million
now.
on the realtors. That does not include real estate professionals, which is a very, very, very large majority as well, percentage as well. But honestly, only really a quarter of that belongs in the market.
For sure.
250,000, maybe the magic number is 400,000. I don't know what that magic number is, but there's way too many real estate professionals that practice real estate and represent buyers and sellers and do not have should not be representing those people.
So you think this will weed those people out of the
I hope so. I hope so,
yeah.
because now, as you know, the buyer's agent has to negotiate with the listing agent and the seller in terms of getting compensation. If it doesn't get it from them, then the buyer's on the hook for that particular percentage or whatever fees it may be. And I can tell you, a lot of the real estate professionals don't know how to negotiate. They don't know how to communicate value. They really struggle. They only may sell a couple of houses a year, and that's just a detriment to the consumer. I mean, so I'm hoping that all these settlements really benefits the consumer in terms of protecting the public and giving the public a true real estate professional, and not just some guy that just went to real estate school, has never bought a home, has never sold a home, and hasn't sold a home in last year and doesn't even know where Frisco is.
Right. Yeah, they're not up to date with it, but I think that's a risk too. Is now it depends on how it's presented to a buyer or how the listing is set up in the first place, but it almost encourages buyers to come unrepresented into a transaction if they're not willing to pay that additional fee for representation, which sounds like a good idea up front, but I think it's a terrible idea. I mean, you don't want to go into a courtroom without an attorney. You don't want to go unrepresented into a transaction that is the biggest investment of your life. But how does the consumer be educated enough to know that that's a really bad idea for them?
I'm going to give you a wildly unpopular opinion. Buyer's agents need to just go away. That doesn't need to be. There's not a need for
that. Is an unpopular opinion, by the way. Yes,
and the majority of struggling agents, very, very much the percentage of struggling agents are buyer's agents, because it's so much easier to just go and find buyers, because you may know your cousin is looking to buy a house. What needs to happen, and I can tell you firsthand, I'm a good agent. I was a good agent. I was actually the number one agent in my market in Lexington, South Carolina. I sold over 100 homes a year. And the best transactions, the smoothest transactions, were when I represented both sides.
Really?
Dual representation. Because I now have fiduciary duties, not just to the seller, but also to the buyer.
How do you negotiate?
You don't. You don't negotiate against each other, right? You just tell the buyer, here are the facts. Here's what the comps for this house should be. Here's what I think, the numbers show based on what I'm seeing here in the average per square foot. But your value opinion may be different than mine and may be different than the seller. So what would you like to offer? Offer $300,000, JP. Let's see where that says. Okay, great. I go to the seller. Hey, seller, the buyer here has offered a fantastic offer. I think it's on point. You can come back. The first offer is always the best offer, or, based on the situation that the seller may be in, I recommend a counter to take it or whatever. But I always did what's best. I always had to make sure that the buyer didn't overpay for the house, because I knew it wouldn't appraise. And then the seller wasn't giving away the home, right? Because you always have a reputation to uphold in the end.
For sure. I think as a seller, though, I would feel like I've hired this person to be my person. And now you're representing that other person too. Am I really getting the best of that situation by having someone that's the intermediary representing both sides?
And I love it. I had so many conversations with seller at this. Mr. Seller, you don't want more than one cook in the kitchen. I'm the only guy in this transaction. That way I can make sure that it goes smoothly, that we don't have another personality, another attitude involved in this transaction. And by the way, because I'm representing both sides, I'm going to save you some money, because there's no two realtors involved in the transaction. So your fee is going to be a little less. I can manage a transaction. My team can manage a transaction. We're going to make sure it goes to closing. And if there's any issues with the buyer, obviously, we would be the first one to know.
Yes, very unpopular opinion, but I think there's going to be a lot that comes out of this that we're just not used to. Unpopular or uncomfortable.
Right?
The
buyer, you're right. Like the buyer, a wise buyer, when they get up to speed with all this, and I really truly believe that they're not going to be calling on a buyer's agent. They're just going to go directly to the listing agent and say, "Hey, can you show me this house?" Hey,
they're going to have to do that on every single house that they go to?
Yeah, for sure. Why not?
How are they going to get access to all the listings out there?
You call the house that you want. Hey, I really like. I mean, information is out there for a buyer, right?
It is, but the best information comes through the MLS, not through Zillow or whatever.
MLS is realtor.com.
True. Yeah.
There's no information on the MLS that is not already either in Zillow, because it's auto-populator, or especially in realtor.com.
Yeah. I mean, it's there. I work, that's all we work with buyers, right? Like we don't really, the sellers are selling the home. So we're the mortgage company for the buyer. and they come in, most of them come in so uneducated.
They are. Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
you're going to depend on every single buyer to sit down and educate themselves enough to be able to navigate a transaction like that.
You're going to call the listing agent, right? Well, the listing agent, the house may not be great for you. Okay, well, then the listing agent could say, okay, well, allow me to go and have my team show some additional homes for you, right?
Then they become buyer's agents.
No, they become showing agents. I think that's the role of the buyer agents will transition to.
But if the showing agent goes and buys a listing that listing agent doesn't have, then they're going to become represented buyer's agents at that point, right?
But yes, then you're going to be a broker. I really want to see the value of the broker. You're getting into some future things that we haven't discussed yet, some future crystal ball. But the name buyer's agent, I really think need to go away. We have showing agents, and we're going to have brokers. I would envision this real estate profession to go. And the broker can then at that point advise you on that particular home you want to buy, or the one that they also have for sale, or others that they have for sale. And maybe perhaps in the future also advise you on mortgage, because they are the broker.
Yeah, I think all that collusion of industries and agents there's a lot of agents that want to become lenders or get their lending license. And
how do you feel about that?
I think it's a terrible idea.
Okay.
I think it's just as bad as not having a buyer's agent.
Are you just being protective of the mortgage business?
Not at all. I think that I knew nothing for the first 2 or 3 years I was in this business, as I educated myself. And what I know today as a 17-year professional versus that,
you're a pro.
I can give true advice to a client. And I think someone that does 3 or 4 or 10, even 10 transactions a year, it's just like you said with real estate agents. Yeah. The ones that do 3 a year know nothing. Well, now you're the agent for the listing side, the buy side, and the lender all in one.
So you think
nothing could go wrong there at all?
You think I couldn't? Not at all. Somebody like me that's been doing this for a long time, you don't think I would be able to do mortgage and brokerage at the same time?
No.
No? Wow.
Not very well.
I think hurtful. I think I would be great at it.
I think you would be great at it after you had 50 transactions under your belt.
Well, what if I worked somebody under you, as I could go, then you would be like my right-hand man and just be in my cubicle next to me and say, hey, Brooks, this is cool. This legit.
Well, what I think these agents are doing, they get the license is that, they give them this, you got to do these 5 things and then you can make a commission on it. Okay. That's great. Are they actually going to do those 5 or 6 things that are required by law for you to do to earn a commission? But then you're just passing the buck on to the other person to do all the work. So now you have someone like me who's got 17 years of experience to do it.
Don't you have to have that, though?
And then here's part of the commission for you just to have.
Well, what if it wasn't a commission? What if it was just like a salary or something?
It's the same thing. You're splitting the profits. So you're splitting hairs, you're splitting profits.
What if you weren't commission driven and you had a salary position and you had a mortgage loan officer and a realtor and an amazing staff of support that supported that client throughout the whole transaction?
I think you get what you pay for.
Which is fantastic representation, I think.
I don't know. In the mortgage side of it, great loan officers have teams and they lead those teams, just like a great realtor has a team and they lead that team. The people that are on that team are trained by that person, or they're new and they're just getting in the business. And so you get what you pay for in that scenario. If you don't have the right person leading and training those people, if they're not incentivized enough to do that, because the margins in mortgage are super low. And
they're higher than the real estate profession.
Not in profit wise, no. And so to take a portion of that profit, say 20% even of that profit, or 50% of that profit, you are taking the professionals out of the business, basically. You're just making it an order taking kind of scenario, and that's not going to do good things for the buyer.
What if the realtor / broker was a mortgage broker?
It's the same thing. I mean, you're still taking that. And I think if you're on every side of it, then you can't be an expert in each piece of it.
I think you would be a great broker.
You can know a lot.
I think you'd be a great real estate broker. I think
I would be too, but I couldn't do nearly as many transactions if I had to go do the brokerage side and the lending side. Now I'm the title company, so I'm over there signing paperwork.
I think it's a great idea. I think you could also be a title company.
And an insurance agent. Let's just throw that in there too.
Yeah.
On top
Not
of
you,
it.
but your team.
Yeah, and I could drive Uber when I'm done, you know?
Well, why not? Save all the time you have left because you have great people that are supporting you. I think it could be done.
It definitely can be done, and it's being done. I don't think it's done anywhere at a high level.
Who's doing it right now? I want to hear about this.
That's what I'm saying. Like, who's doing it at a high level? I know there's plenty of people doing it.
I'd love to hear who is it. Are they doing it well, you think?
Not that I've seen, no.
Is it usually because they're shorthanded on the brokerage side, or they're just not the right person, you think?
I think typically the folks that go after that are trying to get the most out of every deal instead of get the most deals. Like for me, I started to get my real estate license in 08, and I took all the classes online back then. I think I did it in like a day because you could just hit the button and it would just go through.
Don't tell the secret.
You can't do it anymore like that. But I mean, I was there to take the test, and then I was like, I went and I helped a friend, and he was an agent. And he's like, well, you go show these houses for me. And after that day, I was like, I don't want to do that. Like, I don't want to go show houses. I don't want to drive. Dallas is a huge town. I don't want to do this.
I think we could settle this debate. I'm going to take the mortgage license test, the sample test, right?
Okay.
I'm sure they'll probably have some kind of sample test.
Oh, yeah.
Right. And then you're going to take the real estate brokerage sample test. And in the end, whoever scores highest has to buy the other person dinner.
I love that.
All right.
Yeah.
Let's do it. Let's see who would make a better mortgage because tests mean everything, right?
Yeah.
Let's see who would be the better.
Just an FYI, the mortgage test has nothing to do with mortgage. It's like
just so I find the real estate license has nothing to do with selling real estate.
It's like what year TILA was written and, or what it means. Yeah. Could you and I do it? Yes.
Truth in Lending Act, by the way.
Yeah.
I think that's
you got that. You've been studying. So.
Yeah. No, I have not. I just been in business for a long time.
Yeah, I think you could do it or I could do it. I don't think the average person can do it.
It's not an average person position if you were to do that, without a doubt.
Right.
It would take a JP and a Brooks to be able to do mortgage, real estate, be the broker figure, be able to advise your clients in an entire transaction from the mortgage side and the real estate side with a tremendous amount of support from showing agents, closing coordinators, escrow officers to get everything done all in one shop. But I think it could be done. I think, and I would love to see that in the real estate industry.
I think you can make an equation to this already. I mean, look at the builders, right? Look at DHI, D.R. Horton.
They do everything.
They do everything.
Look at Shattuck.
How well do they do?
I love Shattuck, but Shattuck will tell you. I don't know how he does half of the stuff he does.
Yeah.
Have you met Bill?
Yeah. Yeah.
Shattuck?
Yeah.
He's a fantastic person, but sometimes you wonder, like, how does he do all that?
Yeah. He's got a lot of good people.
He's got a lot of good people.
Right.
Yeah. Yep. That's right.
But have you ever, you've done deals with D.R. Horton, like how great is the experience on the mortgage side there? It's not great.
Actually, I bought, it was a terrible experience.
Yeah.
Because I could tell you firsthand, my second home I've ever bought was a Centex home. Remember Centex?
I do. I work with a lot of people that used to work for Centex. Yeah.
And they were
CTX.
DHI mortgage, right?
Mm-hmm.
Centex was
CTX mortgage.
CTX, right?
Yeah.
Not DHI, but I think DHI didn't they bought it. They did something, right? CTX
I think D.R. Horton bought Centex at some point. Yeah.
And I walked out of that closing because the PMI had gone from like 80. I still remember this like it was yesterday.
Yeah.
The PMI on what would have been the good faith estimate that I got when I did the mortgage was $80, and I was very budget driven at the time. I was 24 or something. And the PMI was $80 I was quoted, and all of a sudden my PMI came back at like $180, $190 a month.
Back in the day where it could change and you just had to take it, right?
Yeah. And I was like, I'm not buying this house. I can't afford it. It was like $100 more a month. Thinking now, I was like, how silly. But I made such a big stink. I walked out of the closing. I said, I'm not. I want you guys to revise this. I'm not buying.
Yeah.
And
I bet they fixed it.
They fixed it.
Yeah.
They called me, the director of CTX, whatever that was, said, I apologize. This should have been communicated to you. I'm sorry. It was just, you were blinded by it. We see nothing that was showing, because I was an engineer, so I knew my numbers, right? I was a very number. Yeah. Your typical engineer.
A lot of people just signed it and kept going,
Yeah. And because that allows me, I use that sentence now in a lot of different scenarios when I have to, reprimand and train an employee. And I remember that guy calling me and said, we allowed this to be a training opportunity for our team. And we're going to make it right for you. And we appreciate you giving us a chance. And if you'd like to come back tomorrow morning, we're going to go and reduce your PMI back to where it was. And
nice.
Bought the house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think you can equate that kind of scenario because they've done it. And I used to work for Lennar before I was in the mortgage business. And I can't remember, how many times I was there for corporate meetings, and there were people camped out outside of North American Title there all day long, waiting for their loan docs to show up, waiting in line to close at the title company. And so when you
but
manufacture things like that, like, it can be done, and it will
Brooks,
be done.
We're in a
sure.
different world now. Back when I started real estate, we were waiting for the MLS books to show up at our offices so we could see what was there. Now you have instant gratification, you have DocuSign, you have eSign, you have eNotary, you have eVault.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, to require a client to go through a real estate company and then a mortgage company and then a title company and then an insurance company seems like a massive loss of profits, a massive loss of margins for a consumer, because all that could go back to the consumer in terms of equity for the home and less expenses buying a home.
Sure. I'm sure it'll consolidate in what different ways as we go along. I do believe there's a place for professionals.
If I ever come back to the industry, I'm going to consolidate everything and I'm going to change it.
All right. Well, there we have it, folks.
I didn't say I was. I'm just saying if I did.
If I did. Right?
If I did. We're going to do it we're going to do it like a law firm, maybe. Maybe bill by the hours.
Uh-huh.
And,
and by the gallon, by the mile.
By have a trip fee. Absolutely. Have a trip fee and have it by the hour. And
if you want to see 100 houses, sure.
Yeah.
We'll go for it.
You got it.
Just give us your credit card and we'll just
then we'll take you on contingency, maybe success based only. We'll add it to the sales price of the house. So you're not really having to come up any upfront fees.
You started an app a long time ago about
showing agents.
Is it still
Quick
out
show?
there?
Yeah. No, I don't know. That was I'm like
a little ahead of its time.
Yeah, I think I'm like 0 for 20 on tech, real estate techs. If I could have just half of the money that I invested in those apps. Yeah.
Well, I watched that Uber one though. It takes a lot of money to get something like that off the ground.
That's right. It's not designing the app. To anybody that wants to design apps and thinks they have a great idea for app, designing the app is the easiest part. Going to market for the app and getting monthly users in the app and turning into profit, it's absolutely insane.
Yeah.
The kudos to everybody that's done it and has been able to do it, through those pay services, apps, whatever on phones. But it's not, I haven't been able to do it. And I own a software development company and we are developing a software that's been in the works for now 6 years and we're still not ready. So, yeah. Literally, I just had another call with the developer at 10 o'clock before I came here today.
Yeah. Yeah. We've talked about like creating our own LOS and it's just not worth the squeeze, like there's a lot of great ones out there in our industry but when you've got an idea that works, it's a differentiator in our business. So,
but sure. The bottom line is I hope this settlements and these lawsuits really shake things up and improve things. I haven't seen any change. I've talked to a lot of realtors and everybody seems to basically see, business as usual. They're not seeing a whole lot of changes.
I think I saw one EXP was doing it where they just list it for 3% on their side, and their buyers will fend for themselves. Is that
that's how it has to be, because now the buyer commission is not disclosed on the MLS.
It's not disclosed, but we just got a contract in, and it was listing broker will pay buyer broker 3%. I mean, it's all disclosed. But but I think they're going into the listings. I think that's their national, or someone told me. I don't know if that's true or not, but their like national edict is to just list for yours and then negotiate for the rest. I mean, they're not saying not pay it.
Correct.
But you're not just blanket telling your seller you're paying 3%.
That's exactly. So a buyer's agent now has to call the listing agent and say, hey, will your seller pay my commission? And if the seller says no, which would be crazy to say no, but if the seller says no, then the buyer has to go to the buyer and say, okay, either you pay me, we add it to the sales price of the home, which I think is how it should be done.
Yeah.
Because I would like to think that if there's no buyer's commission on the list price of a house, the home is priced accordingly where there is room for a buyer's commission, right?
It's been built in forever. So if it's at market value today, then the buyer's commission should be technically part of it, right? Or the buyers have paid it forever. It's always been in the commission or in the price, right?
Since now it's not, then remove that 3% off. And then if you ask for 3%, great, I'll have it. I can add it back. Or if you ask for 1%, I just got 2 points.
Well, if I was a buyer's agent, I would just make the offer. I wouldn't even call, and I would just say, "Here's my offer, and it's got 3% commission in it."
The great thing
about
it's a
negotiation. Right?
Now the buyer knows. Before the buyer did not know. It was never discussed that, hey, I'm getting paid 3%.
Yeah, until the closing table and they see $18,000 on there. I'm like, oh my gosh.
Dang, right, exactly. You made them, and most of the time it's the buyer's agent made more money than the listing agent, right? because a lot of these listings are 1%, 2%.
For sure.
And the buyer's agent, always walked away with the majority of the money. And the buyer, there's nothing you could do about it. They didn't really put two and two together. It goes, oh my gosh, I just paid for that. Because it was always coming out of the seller side, right? But it never showed that I could have saved $50,000 in my equity or $30,000 in my equity in my home if I didn't use you, Mr. Buyer's Agent, right?
Right. The one, I guess the part that I see that it would be terrible and it will suck for people is the ones that do, in good faith, go operate like this, and then the buyer, and it's always happened. They go into a new builder and they're like, hey, if you don't bring your agent, then we'll sell you the house for nothing, or 3% less. And so it sucks for those that, even if they get the agreement signed and they go off, because how are you going to know? How are you going to track all that where the buyer just goes off and buys something? Then you're going to sue them for their commission?
No, you're not going to sue your clients. I never sued any of my clients. Right. But let me tell you, newsflash, the buyer's rep agreement that I always used from the time I was a realtor to the time we all had implemented with JPAR said very clearly, I will go and get 3% or whatever it was negotiated, which was 3%, from a seller. In the event, Mr. Buyer, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, if the seller is not willing to pay me 3%, you owe me the difference, or you owe me the full 3%, which was predominantly to prevent builders from doing that. Yeah. And if the buyer went to the builder and the builder did a reach around, then I could have gone, if I wanted to the buyer and said, the F you are. Yeah. If you're going to go to the builder and they're going to cut me out of the deal after I showed you 50 homes, then you owe me this. Here's a buyer's rep agreement. I can take you to court. Did that ever happen? No. Usually it was just a nice call to the builder and said, oh, these are my buyers, and I have them under buyer's rep agreement. Yeah. And until lately, it sounds like now builders are really playing hardball, but until, lately.
Some are. I saw an ad for a builder the other day paying 7% commissions to buyer's agents in order to really combat this, and take their niche in it or play on it in the time,
I have such a hard problem with that, like if I were a buyer and I would see that a builder is incentivizing buyer's agents with could have been my home equity, I could have got that home for 8% less.
They're doing it in the mortgage rates too. Like, oh, I got 4.99. Well, no, they subsidize that with 10 points that they paid out of the sales price of the home. They just didn't lower the price of the home in order to.
Is that fair to the buyer? Is that fair to the new homeowner?
No, it's well, it is and it isn't, because the homeowner just wants the payment, and that's that's what they realize is, well.
But you're a good loan officer. You're going to tell them, hey, those 10 points, you're never going to get that money back because you're not going to be in this house for more than 5-10 years.
Yeah. And and you're in this neighborhood, and hopefully they continue with that incentive, because the reason they do it is to keep the sales prices up. So when the market does come back and the rates come down, they don't have to incentivize them like that anymore, and their profits keep going up. I think D.R. Horton made what? $30 billion last year or something. It was some crazy number.
Horton is insane. Every real estate company stocks is going down, and it's worth nothing compared to where they were in 2021. And D.R. Horton, I should have bought stocks. It hit $100 a share, DHI, and I thought, there's no way. Everybody else is in the trash, and they're trading for $180 a
Are
share.
They really?
Now. Yeah,
doubled it up in the last couple of years.
Almost doubled it up. Yeah, they're insane. Wow. They're all in one. They're affordable housing, right? D.R. Horton. And you talk about bonuses. When I was a realtor, they had, I don't know if they still offer or not, but they had this ticket to paradise. And they gave you a passport, a D.R. Horton passport. And for every home that you sold, the on-site agent would stamp it. And once you reach a certain number of pages in this passport, you could put it in a bowl. And then it was a drawing for an all-expense trip to Europe for like 2 weeks or something.
Oh, wow.
And I was, and they were paying 8%. They were paying some.
They did the 3, 4, 5, like the second home, third home.
Yeah, yep, that's right. They paid more and more commission, right?
When Highland Homes always has that big gala where they give away Mercedes.
Yeah, this was in obviously 2008, 9, 10, whatever, when they wanted to move inventory. Right. And I won one of those things. I was in South Carolina at the time practicing, and I was able to go to Europe, all expenses paid on D.R. Horton for a good month.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And I was a listing agent, right? Because I haven't done it so well. So, and I had a team that were showing agents / buyer's agents, and they'd go, show my houses, and I would negotiate the contract when a contract come in on one of our listings. And wife and kids, we were in Europe, strolling the Champs-Élysées or taking pictures by the Colosseum, or,
that's cool.
Taking the kids in London. And real estate could be such a fantastic career. I mean,
It can.
If you're super successful, it does give you the freedom and flexibility to manage your own schedule, and especially now be able to work remote.
For sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So if you had to give one piece of advice to real estate agents today, what would it be?
Never focus on the deal. Focus on the client. That's, I think, a particular advice that has done me well over the years as I was selling real estate. The deal will happen if you take care of the client, no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
Don't try to shove a house because maybe things are tight in your own family budget and you need that commission check yesterday. Worry about the client first and foremost, and then I believe that you'll be showered by a huge amount of referrals if you take care of the client and don't worry about the deal.
It's good advice. Good advice.
Not too many people really believe that.
Yeah,
that's a shame.
Yeah, they get very deal focused, and I think it plays into the same thing you said earlier. There was the professional agents. The more business you do, and the less deal hungry you are, the more you become a advocate for your client, and you're not worried about the next commission that's coming in.
Yeah, I mean, when I got into real estate, I did not wear a name badge, and I didn't put anything on my car that said I was a realtor because I was flat out embarrassed. Being a realtor embarrassed me. I was an engineer. I went to school for engineering because I saw who I was surrounded and who I went to school with, and I was like, just mortified. Even my father said, you went to college to be an engineer, you're aerospace, you're designing gas turbine engines, you're super smart. You're going to go, I paid all this money. What he was saying is I paid all this money for you to go to college.
Yeah.
now you're going to go be a real estate professional.
Right.
You lost your mind, and maybe I did, but it turned out okay, right? But what he was saying is it's just not a respected profession. And at the time, and I'm sure that hasn't changed, at the time I did my research, and real estate professionals were just one step up from used car salesmen in terms of just market respect. Number one being nurses. Everybody really appreciated nurses and really valued the nurse profession and nurses in general. And realtors were way down there.
Yeah.
And that tells you everything about, and I didn't want to be that. So obviously I'm not wired that way, but apparently there are a lot of people that are that way, that are used car salesmen in this business. And that makes all of us that are professional look really bad.
Well, this is the moment where they get to change that and differentiate themselves and become more of a professional.
Yep.
If they're not already, like there's a lot of great people in the business, and like you say, those take away from that. But the advice that I keep giving agents that are asking me about this is if this is their opportunity to go back and really look at their process and say, okay, this is what I need to do differently. I need to be more of a professional. I need to have a professional buyer's consultation instead of just meeting somebody at a house and hoping for the best. Like, this is what I do, and this is the value I provide, and this is what I'm going to ultimately cover for you throughout this process, because this is where you can get screwed, and this is where you can lose money, and this is where I'm going to negotiate for you, because there's so many things that happen in that negotiation period that the buyers just don't know, and they are worth that representation because they will save them that money, or there's a foundation issue that they never would have seen, or even as simple as dropping their earnest money off of the title company and they missed the 3-day window, and then what happens to it,
See, you make a great broker.
So yeah, there's a lot of things. There's 111 things that a buyer's agent does for you, right?
Yep, absolutely. And I'm sure there's 100 things that your mortgage loan officer does for you.
Maybe 200. Yeah,
200
possibly. Yeah.
Do you or do your assistants do the 200 something?
Well, I do at least the most important ones.
You don't have to answer that question.
They handle all the rest of them. So right on, man. Well, thank you for joining me today.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
It was great chatting with you. I love your forward-thinking opinions, and appreciate you taking time.
I just found a new job.
Yeah, loan officer? Or?
Mortgage Link. What is it? Brooks on the Money.
Brooks on the Money.
With Mortgage Link, right?
Watch it on Spotify, Apple, YouTube, all those places. Make sure you follow along.
Happy to be here, guys.
All right. Thanks, JP.
Bye, y'all.